ready to get started? This is probably one of those videos that you'll watch a couple of times, the ones for this week and next week, because it takes a couple of tries to fully understand what it is you're going to be doing. But we're going to work on these together in class. We're going to have some work sessions so that you can get some help. So that when you turn in your logic models, because you're going to turn in 5 of them, one for each level of the ecological model, you will have had ample opportunity to get help from me and from your classmates on how to complete these. And this is a skill that you're going to use in your career. The university got a very nice size federal grant a couple of years ago, and one of the things they had to do was develop a logic model to explain what they were going to do over the course of the grant funding. And we're going to see this more and more often with grant funding, and almost all of you at some point in your careers will be writing some type of grant. So this is an important thing to understand how to do. So you should, let's pull up, you should have read the material here for week 6. You should have started reading this. If you didn't start reading it, I suggest you get busy and start reading it. And then there are a couple of videos to get you started. This one is from Australia, and I don't remember where this one is from. But they give you some general information about logic models. And whether you understand the way I teach it, you understand from the videos, or you understand the way that it's written in the readings, one of them is going to make more sense to you than the others, most likely. And that's okay. Let's see. As we go through the next couple of weeks, you're going to practice some more about or read some more about creating logic models. So make sure that you keep up with your readings so that you're ready. Highlight your readings, write your questions so that we can go over them in class to make sure that you understand what you're doing. So today, should have already done this. I think it was something I meant to do earlier. So today we're going to start with some lecture materials, but I want you to ask questions. Okay, so those are the slides that I'm going to be using. You can go ahead and download them if you want, or you can download them later. But I will be using them all this week, and we'll probably be referencing them next week also. First thing, how many of y'all are familiar with writing SMART goals? Okay, I've got one hand in the room. Have you ever heard of SMART goals before?
I think I've heard of them.
You've heard of them? How about folks in the computer? Have y'all written SMART goals or had anything in class about them before? You have not heard about them. Okay. So SMART goals are an organized way to plan for the future. And so that's part of what we use to make our logic models. We will either start working on making SMART goals on Wednesday or maybe next Monday. You will have an assignment due next week where you're going to make SMART goals related to your risk assessment topic. So it's going to be important that you know how to write them. So we're going to have an opportunity, just like we did it early in the semester, to do a group activity and help each other. We're going to be able to do that again. So make a note. You need to understand what SMART goals are as we go through this. So what is a logic model? Here's some information about them. It's basically, each logic model is a one-page description of what you want to accomplish. Now, I mentioned earlier that you're going to develop 5 logic models for this class. So each one is going to be a page long, and each one focuses on a specific level of the ecological model, but it's targeting improving the health or social condition in the target community that you're doing for your risk assessment. It's similar to an elevator speech. So have any of y'all ever heard the term elevator speech? And he's looking at me like, why do I sit in front? So an elevator speech is something that you practice, that if you get on an elevator and you're riding an elevator with somebody and they ask, what are you doing? You can tell them in the amount of time it takes to go to a couple of floors what it is that you do in your job. That's an elevator speech. Or maybe you're interviewing for a job. You summarize your skill set and why you should be working for that company in the amount of time it takes to take the elevator from the first to the top floor of a standard size building. Well, a logic model, if somebody asks you about what project you're working on, you can pull the logic model out and you can tell them, this is the project, this is the logic model that we're working on, this is our ultimate goal, and this is how we're going to reach that goal. And the general population can look at it and go, okay, this makes sense. They may not know how to make one, but if it's already made, they can follow the logic of it. What are the logic models used? They're used throughout your project. They're one of the first things that you develop. And you're going to have your SMART goals first. You've got to know your end result, what you want to achieve, and then you can develop your logic model. You're going to determine how you're going to measure success. So have you reached those goals that you set? And then you're going to figure out what are the activities that you have to perform in order to reach those goals. Many programs, unfortunately, do not think about evaluation until they've already finished their program, their intervention. The problem is, if you do not think about what success means from the beginning, how are you going to know if your program was successful? So you've got to think about what is success. You've got to think about what your goals are, those SMART goals. That's why you start off with those. So logic models help you with planning. They help you know how many employees you need. They help you know where you're going to have to house your organization. They're going to help you determine whether the implementation of your work is going to be in person or virtual or online. It's going to help you with your staff trainings, your key stakeholders. So if you need to offer some type of program in local community settings, maybe businesses, some of your stakeholders are going to be those business owners. So logic models are going to help you explain to those business owners why they need to let you present at their staff meetings, or why they need to give you an hour of time to talk to their employees. Already mentioned evaluation, and then advocacy. It's kind of that elevator speech that I was talking about. You're advocating for people to pay attention to what it is you're doing. This is an extremely simple logic model. Now, y'all are going to be a little bit more involved in this. Generally, your long-term outcomes are around 10 years. So think about your topic for your risk assessment. What would be a successful outcome 10 years out? You're not going to get rid of the problem for most of y'all, but you can improve some of the issues around the topic. You can improve awareness, you can reduce the severity, those types of things. So Aiden, it looks like you're typing. What would be something that you would like to see with your health topic to be improved in 10 years? How about y'all in the room? Okay.
Awareness about limits, the environment of it and process. Minors.
Mandate what for minors?
Helmet use during their life.
Helmet use. Okay. So to increase, so you want to increase helmet use. Okay. Yeah. So maybe if you find out that current helmet use right now is 30%, a 10-year goal might be 40%. It doesn't sound like much, but a 10% increase is a lot. How about you?
Making sure there wasn't behind you.
Okay, yeah. So on your topic again.
It's working with children who grew up in a drug-related environment.
Okay.
So the 10-year goal would probably be drug use around minors being down by 10%.
Okay. So children who were exposed to addiction through their homes, it would be a 10% reduction in those youth saying that they had experimented. Okay. That was going to be a challenge to measure, but yes, that's an appropriate goal. Okay. How about you?
Lower quitting rates.
Lower quitting rate?
Mm-hmm.
Higher quitting rate.
Lower.
Lower usage rate.
I'm working with psychologists on now.
Oh, okay. So lower burnout rates.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
okay,
that's what you just.
okay. I was thinking you were talking about, somebody's doing vaping. Who's doing vaping? That's what I was thinking.
You always get mine confused with someone else.
I will eventually get them. I normally have them all down pat by now. So, yeah.
I was just as confused.
Okay, so for me, help raise awareness in your local town to help the elderly a bit more. Okay. So you want to increase awareness maybe on the risk factors for pulmonary embolism. So a 10-year goal could be to reduce the rate of pulmonary embolism by 3%. Again, I know that doesn't sound like much, but there are so many things that can contribute to somebody developing a pulmonary embolism that you have no control over. And if you can prevent one or delay one, even by a few months, the amount of medical cost savings there are huge. Yeah, 3% would be phenomenal. Okay, so those are roughly SMART goal outcomes. We'd have to do a little bit more work on them. Medium-term outcomes are about 5 years out. So if your long term is 10 years, your medium terms are roughly 5 years. And then your short term are about a year. So what has to happen? What do you have to achieve in the first year of your program in order to eventually reach the 5-year goal and to eventually reach the 10-year goal? So it's kind of like, what do you need to achieve by your freshman year of college in order to achieve graduating on time at 4 years, to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve by the time you're 30? Similar concept. Outputs, activities, and participation. Activities are those things that you're going to do. Yeah, going little by little. Yeah, those little baby steps that we have to do to achieve things. What are those activities? So when you're reading the research articles or you're reading the websites about interventions or awareness campaigns, those kinds of things, what is it that they are doing? Sometimes they'll highlight an organization that's doing something in their community. The BHA, Behavioral Health Association, Student Health Association, Behavioral Health Student Association. So these are community health, psychology, sociology, and other students on campus. They're offering a Narcan training. I think it's this week. Or was it last week? Is it this week? This week? Okay. They are offering a Narcan training on campus. That is an activity to help reduce opioid overdoses. It's helping to bring awareness to opioid overdoses. Participation. Who are we going to have participate? Well, for the Narcan activity, anybody on the campus community, students, employees, visitors. Did they invite the larger community?
I didn't actually read it.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure if somebody from the larger community happens to show up, they're not going to turn them away. It just depends on if they have enough RPM to give out to everybody.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah, so, the participation is who is going to take part in the activity and is going to contribute to making change. Inputs, what are all of those things that we need? Anytime you want to offer an activity, what is something that you typically need?
Resources.
Yeah, what kind of resources? Money, supplies, people,
Space.
space. That's what goes in inputs. So if you were to tell me you were going to do a social media campaign, you're going to have the technology, which that's a lot easier to have now than it was when I was in college, the first time the internet was just starting. It was a really big deal to have a website. Now everybody's got the internet in their pocket, or most people do. But you still have to have access to it. You have to have social media platforms. You've got to have followers. You've got to have people who can design the appropriate style ads for social media. If you're going to do a TikTok, you've got to have people that are comfortable with doing the videos. For community health promotion, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we have Snapchat, but there's nothing on Snapchat. We don't have TikTok because I don't do videos. But I have it set up for posts to go to our platforms on a regular basis. They're just not videos, they're static ones. But the inputs, I've got to have a way to do that in an organized fashion. I cannot go to each of these websites every day and post something. I don't have the time for that, so I had to figure out a way to organize it. So those inputs are what you need. If you want college students to show up for an event, what's one of the best ways to get them to show up?
Offer food for one.
Yeah, offer food.
Place to take pictures.
Place to take pictures. Those kinds of things. That's also what I just did there is an example of asking key stakeholders. Y'all are students. What it takes to get y'all to show up at an event may not be the same thing it would be for faculty to show up. No, we will show up for food. That's pretty universal. But you ask the target community, what is it that we can do that will get you interested in participating? Those are the kind of things that go into inputs. So when you're planning, you're starting at the outcomes. Like, this is what we want to happen. And you're going to plan everything else in order to make that happen. Once you've developed your logic model, your evaluation, there's different types of evaluation, but you're going to evaluate each step going forward to determine how well you're doing and whether or not you need to make some initial edits to your current plan in order to make things successful. That's all a logic model is. I mean, we basically just talked through one. So how do you create one? So these are some points with it. The bottom bullet point, revisit and be ready to revise as necessary. It's very rare that you're going to develop a logic model that's going to work perfectly all the way through your project. Stuff happens. We were talking about large data sets a couple weeks ago, and there was, well, I'm assuming there still is, the Bugalusa heart study. It's out of Louisiana, and they're looking at health issues around for children, particularly heart issues. During Hurricane Katrina, they lost electricity. So they lost some of the biological specimens they had collected. Yeah, that threw a kink in their research. It messed things up. They also, there was totally unrelated to Bugalusa heart study, but there was a researcher who was looking at the amount of shelf space in convenience stores dedicated to healthy foods versus less than healthy foods. Well, they could not go in and measure shelf space when the buildings were underwater because of Katrina. Everything got flooded. So their logic models had to be updated. There became issues that were more critical that had to be addressed. Yeah. But then they can make those adjustments. Same thing with the pandemic. I had a grant that I was awarded January of 2020. And if you look by the water fountains and in the elevators around campus, most of them still have the picture frames that have the 2 shoe prints in the water bottle telling you to take some water and go for a walk. Those were paid for by grants. And what we were going to do is the students were going to measure the number of water bottles that were refilled over a given period of time in those refillable machine things. So I got the grant in January. I went to the training in February. I sent the students out to collect baseline data in February. What happened in March of 2020?
Around COVID.
It's like the world shut down.
That's right at COVID.
Yeah. Everything shut down on like March 20th or something like that. So our data collection was completely useless because nobody was on campus to refill water bottles. You couldn't even get in the buildings. So fortunately, the agency that gave us the money was like, yeah, you can actually do that. It's okay. You do the best you can, and we keep going forward. Your logic model has to be flexible. Stuff happens. What makes logic models effective? Visually engaging. They're simple, but they have enough information that people can understand what it is that you're doing. And it's an interesting balance between simple and confusing. This is not something that you can just throw together at the last minute, especially when you're still learning how to make them. SMART goals can be quite difficult until you get some practice with them. And so that's why we're going to practice those either on Wednesday or next week. When logic models trigger those questions from people you're sharing it with, you need to either write down those questions or figure out a way to remember them. Because if you're getting the same question over and over again, you probably need to incorporate the answer into the logic model. Because you might be missing something that's really important. If you looked over your brainstorming assignment, and if you haven't looked over it, you need to. I asked y'all lots of questions. Just because I asked you questions or made comments does not mean you screwed something up. You made me think. That's good. Because I was thinking of ways that you could use your topic going forward. Either it prompted ideas for your risk assessment paper or for future classes. That can happen with logic models too. It can also develop connections. So I was talking about elevator speeches. You never know who you're going to meet in the elevator. And you're telling them, you're explaining your logic model, you're telling them about your project, and they say, hi. You know, I was just talking to our board, and we're looking at developing a philanthropic organization. Could you send me a one-page summary of what y'all are doing so I can share it with our board? We might be interested in investing in the organization. Might get you some money. It might get you a partner for other types of collaboration. You never know. But those are the kinds of things logic models can help with. These are just a few of the benefits of them. A couple of the critical ones: prevent mismatches between activities and effects. If you tell me that you're going to reduce burnout of psychologists, but all of your activities are only focused on increase in awareness of what psychologists do, that's a mismatch. It helps you make sure that everything works together and you're actually addressing what you think you're addressing. Sometimes we get so wrapped up into what our passions are that we make logical leaps that the general population would never make. And so that's why it's so helpful to have other people look at our work and give us feedback. Right? Like, how did you get from A to G? You think you're going A to B, but you're not. You've got something going on in there that you're going to have to address in your logic model and that you're going to implement in your program in order to actually get to G. The other one define a shared language and a shared vision for community change. Think about what I mentioned last week with the community in the southern part of the state. They had a very high teen pregnancy rate, but that was not what they were concerned about. They were concerned with their very high unemployment rate. Now, the researchers, logically, they could explain, well, if you reduce teen pregnancy, you're going to have fewer mouths to feed, and people are more likely to be able to go to work. But the families that are living there, it doesn't matter how many mouths we have to feed, there is no place for people to go to work. So you've got to get everybody on the same page. So even if you develop a logic model, you're going to have to make sure that the people in your target community agree with it. You also have to make sure that your funding agencies agree with it. Sometimes that can be hard to get everybody on the same page. And you're the person that has to work as the middleman between everybody to get on the same page and develop something that everybody can be happy with. They might not be ecstatic, but they can be happy with it. So what do y'all think about this so far? Folks in the computer, how y'all feeling about it? How y'all feel in the room?
Logically, it seems to be working out fine.
Logically, it seems to be working out fine. Okay. Okay.
See how it is.
Yeah, see how it is when I actually have to do it. Totally get that one.
It is sound very, very simple.
And that's the thing, is it actually is. It can be a little tedious. And I actually did not learn, okay, it sounds simple, but I'm sure it's easier said than done at first. Yes. So I've never heard of logic models until I went for my master's in public health degree. And that was a totally online course. And the professor was teaching the class online to those of us in the online program, and then in the classroom to the in face-to-face program. And she just decided she wasn't going to teach us logic models. She's like, I don't know how to teach these online. And I'm looking at them going, what do you mean you don't know how to teach this online? We read about it, we make them, we help it. And granted, this was the early 2000s, so we didn't have some stuff that we have now, but it was like, yeah, it was limited, but it wasn't that limited.
Did you think live wires is the why it was difficult?
I never did figure out why she thought it was so difficult. But, yeah, there were other issues with this professor. I ended up doing some weird, crazy things because she couldn't figure out how to teach class online. But I didn't know how to do this. I was managing grants at that time. This would have been so helpful for me to have had. And this is why it's so important for y'all to understand this. Even as undergrad students, are you going to do these perfectly? No. Are you going to do them better than she was teaching them? Yeah. Okay.
I don't have much faith.
I have so much. So last fall was the first time I had students develop 5 logic models in this, using the same assignment that y'all were doing. I was so proud of the students. I strutted all over the building. I was like, y'all should see what my students are doing. But they did phenomenal, and y'all are gonna do just as well. Are they gonna be perfect? Probably not, but you know what? That's okay. Y'all are gonna be able to get your point across, and you're gonna be so far ahead of 90% of the people out there that are doing health promotion that nobody's gonna know either way. And they're gonna be looking to y'all to teach them how to do this. And that's when y'all call me and go, guess what? And then I get to strut around going, my students are teaching now. I'm very partial to my students. I can't figure that out. So logic models do have limitations. They're not perfect.
Any of those catch.
Yeah, there's always a catch. Whatever you design, that is not the only way to reach the same results. It's just the way that you and your program is proposing to reach those results. Think about, there's many ways that you could have come to campus this week, or this morning, or multiple ways you could have gotten to your computer this morning. I could have taken the interstate, I could have taken US 19. They would have both gotten me here. Didn't really matter which way I took. Same thing with logic models. There's multiple ways. Yeah. Setting the appropriate boundaries. Yeah. We get excited about things. You've got an activity that's going so well, and you want to offer it more times than you might have funding to offer. Or you get invited to do something that is similar to what you would be doing related to your logic model, but it's different enough that it doesn't really fit with what you proposed and you were approved to do. You've got to set those boundaries, and it is so hard. Anybody had to tell your boss that no, you couldn't do something? Yeah, that's hard. Especially when it's something that you really want to do. But having something written out that everybody has agreed to gives you, kind of that concrete thing that you can share with somebody and say, how does what you want me to do fit into what it is that we have to accomplish? Yeah, it's never fun. It was great. Developing a logic model can be time consuming, especially when you are learning how to do it. Now, once you get accustomed to making them, you're going to quickly realize that you can take an older logic model and adapt it. So if your organization, you're working for an organization that is, their mission is to reduce addiction in a community. Well, the long-term goal, the 20-year long-term goal and mission to reduce, opioid addiction by 80%, something like that. Your logic model goals might change based on the substance that they're focusing on, whether it's opioids or, some other class of drug. Or it might change targeting teenagers versus individuals who work in manual jobs versus family members or something like that. So you can take a logic model that's already made and adapt it. That'll save a lot of time. And it also can help make sure that your logic models are related to each other. These are going to be important terms, especially the relevant and measurable. Y'all are going to get annoyed at me over the next couple of weeks when I ask you, yeah, but how are you going to measure it? One of the things I do in addition to teaching is I work with faculty for on program and course level assessment. So how do we know students are learning what they need to learn in order to be successful in their careers? I can talk with students and program graduates, and I can tell they know what they need to know. But we have to have formalized assessments to demonstrate it. And those assessments have to be measurable. And that can be hard because we know what we expect out of y'all. But getting that wording down can be a little difficult sometimes. And so that's what we're going to work on with y'all, is making sure that your activities and your goals match and that they can be measured. So thinking about, let's talk about social media earlier. It's almost impossible to measure whether or not social media changes attitudes. I mean, that's just not measurable. Because there's so many other things that contribute to people's attitudes and how they change. You can't pinpoint it to social media. But what is something about social media that can be measured?
Measure views.
Measure views, likes, shares, how often it's played. Yeah. See, y'all got it. That's measurable. So you would not write how often it's ignored.
That is actually something you can measure.
Do what?
That's actually something you can measure.
Yeah, how often it's like shown on a screen but nobody interacts with it. Now, all of that is very much measurable. So that's what you're going to use in your SMART goal. It's not going to be, you know, these Twitter posts are going to change attitudes. It's going to be, you know, 15 Twitter posts this month will be posted and they will be shared or interacted with X number of times. Something along those lines. That we can measure. We can count those. So when you're thinking about your SMART goals, that's what you got to remember. We can ask people to fill out a survey that measures their attitudes pre and post. So before we start our social media campaign and after we implement our social media campaign. But we do not know if those individuals saw those posts, and we do not know if how many of them they interacted with necessarily. Especially if it's a community-based intervention, because we don't know who all those people are in the community. So we just measure what we can, and we have to hope that that's what's making the difference. Okay. So let's see if I can zoom in on this one a little bit. And now in the room, you'll sort of read the
Somewhat.
somewhat, okay.
I don't mind.
So this is an example of a logic model developed by a 9 and 11-year-old. They,
At some point, we've all made one issue
oh yeah,
on a high scale.
yeah, exactly. And you're the first student that's ever mentioned that. It's like, yeah, we've all done these, but we've never realized we've done them. Yeah, good job. You've all done them. You just never formalized them. These kids wanted a safe place to play. That was their goal. Which meant they needed new playground equipment. Which meant that they needed to raise $1,500. I don't know what kind of playground equipment you can buy for $1,500, but it's not much.
You're getting a 6, that's it.
Oh yeah, that's it. So, and this is not that old.
Maybe a swing set.
That was their goal. They came up with their activities, their fundraising activities. They were going to have a carnival, a yard sale, a car wash, and a bake sale. What resources did they need? They needed their community. They needed surrounding communities, so they knew that they were going to have to advertise. And they developed kind of their own little kids group of kids for a safer Barzing. I guess that's their town. Now they could develop a logic model for each one of those activities, because to plan those 4 activities, that's a lot of planning. Anybody ever planned any of those? A carnival, a yard sale, a car wash, or a bake sale?
Bake sale and a yard sale.
Those can be very involved. Lot of planning to them. So they could actually be their own logic models that then feed into this larger one. Because you have to set up the day of the activity, you're going to have your liability insurance, you're going to have to, like the yard sale, the bake sale, you've got to gather up everything that's going to be sold, you've got to have a location for these activities, all this kind of stuff. And these were little kids, so they had to rely on the adults a lot. But this was a logic model. It doesn't look like the ones that y'all would be doing. There's not a SMART goal on here. But they can share this with anybody and they know what they're trying to do. It's very impressive. Remember, these are 9 and 11. Now, granted, their mother teaches this. But they know how to do it.
It's already smart.
No, they learned it at a younger age is all. So this is another example.
Yes, I'd like to see the 9 and 11-year-old.
So this one is the ultimate goal is to improve quality of life. Now, that's an ultimate goal. That's not a SMART goal. That's kind of hard to measure. You can improve and you can measure health status. You can measure how walkable a community is. There are different checklists that you can go and measure a community with. You can measure changes in air quality, safety or crime, economic development, social capital, and recreation access. So all of these things are measurable. And those are things that generally we use to assess quality of life. Now this, the successful walk to school day, is the actual event that they wanted to organize and plan. This is all of the stuff that's directly related to that day. This is everything that had to take place. It's the activities and the inputs that had to take place in order for the walk to school day event to happen. So instead of having the 1, 5, and 10-year SMART goal outcomes, their outcome was to have the events, and they had extensive planning that they did the logic model for. They needed funding and sponsorships. They needed incentives for participation. They needed classroom activities to get people interested. They needed planning packets. They needed the media to be involved. They needed a planning group. They needed a second planning group. They had to involve the governor and the mayor. They needed volunteers. You had kids walking to school, you're going to need a lot of volunteers. This format might be something that y'all are more familiar with if you've had to plan events. If you've had to plan a wedding or a party or some kind of other event. You got all this stuff over here. And then you've got that one day event that's going to take place. All this stuff. So this is another example. This is the more traditional format. Preventing the initiation of tobacco use among young people. We've got the short-term, intermediate or medium-term, and long-term outcomes. Now, these are not written as SMART goals. That's a problem. We don't know the deadline for these things to happen. We don't know how much improvement is considered a success. That's the kind of stuff that needs to be included in these. But it does give information that could be easily turned into a SMART goal. Smoking is denormalized. They're also making up words. So by the end of the school year, there will be a 30% increase in the number of students who report that smoking is unusual in their friend group. Something like that. That would be denormalizing it. They've got inputs. Primarily, they're looking at the state health departments and related partners. Activities, they're going to do counter marketing. So what does counter marketing mean?
I've been sitting on that one myself. Because there's no way to counter market without connecting. which could potentially cause students or young people to become curious as to why the advertising against it. And it's like, oh yes, some kind of people. And you might do it yourself, right? Like it says on the package,
Yeah.
I mean,
So what you're saying is, yeah, that is counter marketing. The advertisements about cigarettes or tobacco, the nicotine and all the carcinogens in the cigarettes, that those can cause cancer and that nicotine is addictive, that is the counter marketing.
heck, chewing tobacco has it on that it may cause mouth cancer.
Yeah.
So they all have it look stamp on.
Uh-huh. That is counter marketing. You will occasionally see posters about, and you'll see,
I thought that was just a disclaimer.
it's a disclaimer, but it falls under that counter marketing. It's instead of saying, this is gonna give you energy or whatever it is, the marketing is trying to get you to buy the product. The counter marketing is telling you, yeah, this is not good for you.
I don't think I've ever seen cigarette marketing.
Y'all are young enough that it was made illegal. I remember the cigarette vending machines.
I'm not
Yeah.
but I do remember cigarette commercials. I
Yeah.
was little, but I remember.
Yeah. You will see people with COPD commercials on TV now. Those are counter marketing. Do y'all remember? So I remember when it came out, your brain on drugs for Friday commercial.
Yeah,
Maybe
Is it like a little brain that's running around?
no. This was actually somebody frying an egg.
Liz does.
This does, yeah. Okay, that's counter marketing. Yeah.
So
That
I
was-
remember it's a little brain running around among people not knowing what it's doing.
Oh, I hadn't seen that one.
Oh, I've seen it. I haven't seen it.
The lumberjack commercial about oh, I don't remember that one.
All my couple of different, all my counter,
Or little one.
all my counter marketing is, if you have COPD, it might be hard to breathe. You should stand this close to your crib if you smoke.
Yeah, that is counter marketing. The one with the bassinet. She's talking about the bassinet and talking to her baby. Yeah, that one.
Open up the holes so your baby can hear you better.
Yeah, those are counter marketing. It's trying to tell people not to do these things that are harmful to you. And then school-based prevention, whatever the school's doing for their education, community mobilization, policy and regulatory action. And no longer advertising cigarettes. Yeah, those kinds of things. Outputs. Youth are exposed to anti-tobacco, pro-health messages, and fewer pro-tobacco messages. So that's kind of like the initial thing that's going to happen. Down here, increased price on cigarettes through taxes. Every time they increase taxes on cigarettes, it helps to reduce
It
the number of
definitely
people.
cuts down the amount you buy.
Right, it'll cut down on the amount people buy, and it's expensive.
Realistically, aren't they up like $5 a pack now?
I have no idea how much they are, other than expensive.
That's what.
Depending on the brand you get.
I have a family member who smokes, so I keep up with.
And some places also don't follow the laws for the minimum price.
I'm not surprised.
So generally, this one's not a specific health condition or social issue. This is just a group of if-then statements. If you build partnerships, Then you have integrated, coordinated plans and efforts. Then you incorporate individual behavior change. Then you develop prevention. Then you should see a decrease in the incidence of whatever. Then you should see a decrease in the morbidity and mortality. If then statements, that's one of those other things that's constantly going on in my head. I took a logic class in undergrad, and it was by far probably the best class I ever had. I did not appreciate it at the time, and I think I got a C in the class. I wish I still had the book, because I cannot find it. I don't know the name of it, but it was from 1992. So, yeah. But it was an awesome book. But if-then statements are so important. If you do this, then you can do this. Else, if you don't do that, then you have to do this. You throw that else in there as an alternative theme. But you can apply this logic model, it's slide 14. You can apply that to your topic, and you're going to come up with a pretty good logic model. Now you'll notice it's got a different organization, it's got different arrows, and that's okay. But it will help you think through them. So how do y'all feel about this so far?
We'll get there.
We will get there. Okay. I got one person in the room looking at me like, yeah, hell no. And the other one's just kind of grinning at me. How do y'all feel on the computer?
I'm slightly concerned.
Arrows for me.
Oh yeah, that one looks definitely interesting.
Well, the nice thing about it, and I'm putting this here, and I'm going to have to remember to repeat it. When you start working on your logic model, those little arrows in the Word document tend to wander around the screen. If that happens, delete them and just hand draw them out, because they do get annoying. And that's just a byproduct of Word. It's so annoying. It's much more of a plan. Let's see. You can do yours in a PowerPoint. Yep. You can hand draw them as long as it's legible. I don't care how you do that. All right, so Wednesday, we got 2 more slides we'll go through, and then we're going to start working on your SMART goals on Wednesday, so that you'll have those first 3 columns, you'll have those ready for next week. And you'll have that homework assignment done for next week, hopefully. What's that? Okay. All right, I'll stick around in case anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I will see you on Wednesday.